Good evening, everybody. Thank you for that acknowledgement. One person. I call to order the Bethany City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 1st, 2018. Please rise for the prayer and the flag salute. Curtis, will you lead the flag salute for us?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the beautiful day, for the sunshine and the rain, Lord, for our state. We just pray you just give us guidance and wisdom as we come here before you tonight, Lord, to make decisions incredibly important for the city, for the community, for our citizens. Be with us tonight. We just ask you to bless this city. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Item 1 tonight's consent docket, A through E. Do I have any questions or a motion? Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes. Item 2 is consideration and possible approval of a request from CRB Companies LLC and AT&T to install cellular phone antennas and associated equipment on existing tower located at 7270 Northwest 36th Street. Do I have any questions or a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 3 is consideration and possible approval of Fifth Amendment to communication lease agreement with New Singular Wireless AT&T. Do I have any questions or a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Please cast your votes. Item 4 is consideration and possible approval of purchase of 13 portable police radios from Harris Communications for a total price of $33,624.50. Do I have any questions or a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I have a question. I'd like to know what becomes of the old radios that we will no longer be using, that these will replace.
Chief Cole?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As stated in the materials I submitted on this agenda item, this will be a 3-year replacement of a total of 39 radios. The main reason that we need to replace them, in addition to them being 10 to 12 years old, depending on which year we purchase these, those radios are maintained and repaired by City of Oklahoma City that we have an interlocal agreement with to do that. The spare parts for these radios are no longer being produced, so in anticipation of them no longer being in service, we need to swap them out. So the ones that we are replacing are still in service. They will still work on our existing system. They will also work on the system that Oklahoma City is going to upgrade in the future. However, these radios we actually got on grants, and we have actually no city funds in both our existing portable radios and our mobile radios. We were able to secure a Homeland Security grant in 2007 that was over $200,000 worth of radio equipment that there wasn't even a match for the city on. So this is really, in 10 years, this is our really first purchase on the radios themselves. I think it's important to mention that last week I found out that Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office, who have hundreds of deputies, they are also going to partner with City of Oklahoma City and go on the same radio system. So when I have these 39 that are no longer in service, it'll be up to the council what you would have me do with those. I got a call from the sheriff's office letting me know that they were going to partner with Oklahoma City. They called me to see if I had been happy with that arrangement, which we are very much so. But they said, I mentioned that we were going to start replacing equipment, and they said, hey, what are you going to do with that equipment? Because they have no 800 megahertz radios, and they're going to have to actually lease used radios from Oklahoma City. So once I get a handle on what Oklahoma County is going to do, I would like to come back to the council and maybe discuss some options about what you would like to do with these. They can be auctioned per city policy. There are no restrictions from Homeland Security, who gave us the money. All those years of restrictions have expired. It is truly our equipment to do with what the council sees fit. So they could be auctioned. They could be given under a local agreement with the sheriff's office or another agency that might find those things useful. But the bottom line is, in a year or so, they're not going to be any use to us because we won't be able to get spare parts.
Would
Did that
they be able
answer
to
your
be
question?
leased?
I'm sorry?
Would we be able to lease them?
That would be up to the council and whatever agreements you would like to make. But I would hate for them just to sit on a shelf for any period of time that they could be helping public safety. So I'd like to come back, Mr. Todd, at some point and offer you some options on maybe what we could do with the old equipment.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I had a motion, I had a second.
Thank you.
Please cast your votes. Item 5 is consideration and possible approval of library change order number 6 with Shiloh Enterprises, Inc. for $8,974.76 pertaining to dirt work, carpet, drywall, soffit changes, and revisions to the street, curb, and gutter work. Could I get a report or an explanation of this? Mr. Oberdeen?
Good evening, Todd Oberding. This change order, as outlined in the narrative, addresses several issues that have surfaced over the last 2 months or so that we have been working with them on. The first one deals with some revisions to the dirt work in the south edge of the pond that came about in large part because of that area was actually part of the leased area or easement that we made arrangements with the YMCA to purchase or use throughout the project. We've installed a sidewalk on the YMCA's property. We've installed lighting. We've made arrangements to maintain that grassed area around that sidewalk. And this is a piece of work here, this first item, to kind of finish up the work that's associated with the pond. The second one...
Todd, could you pull the mic up a little bit?
Yes.
I think that's better.
The second item is a change to the project carpeting that was originally specified when we put together, the art contractor put together shop drawings for the carpeting. They discovered that carpeting had been discontinued, and so the architect worked with MLS and the contractor to come up with a replacement, and so that particular item is number 2. It's for $1,170. Number 3 deals with some drywall soffit changes where we the details for enclosing work weren't complete to cover up some structural steel support members, and so we made some revisions to ceiling height elevations and lowered ceilings and added some additional drywall work there. And the last item that's part of that is to delete some of the curb and gutter work that was originally scheduled to be removed.
Do you, as one that's hired by the city to see this contract through, do you see this as the wise choice for the citizens of Bethany?
The change order?
Yeah.
Yes, I think there's been a review of this information that's been provided by Shiloh, that's been reviewed by the civil engineers and the architects and the people that have been involved with this, and I've reviewed it with them and believe that we have, a good proposal here.
Do you, when it comes to the dirt work over on the south side of the pond, do we know that that is within, is that owned by the city of Bethany, that portion of that pond? Are we within our boundaries?
It's not. It's actually part of the easement agreement that the city of Bethany made with the YMCA. In effect, you've taken over use of that land. It technically belongs to the YMCA, but the lease agreement with them requires Bethany to maintain that area as part of the agreement.
And then the curb and gutter work, what was the total price on that? Like 7,000 something?
Yeah, $7,500.
So is that, are you saying that in order to do this work, it would essentially be saving the city $7,000? So you're saying that would,
Yes.
to do the work, that's essentially what it would cost the contractor?
That's correct. One of the things that I should point out, and there may have been some misunderstanding about how much work is really involved there. The amount of curb and gutter that was, just kind of using round numbers, that was in the original project was about 800 feet of curb and gutter that needed to be, that was scheduled to be removed and replaced, okay? Because we're basically relocating approaches into the library area, there still is about 400 feet of curb and gutter that still needs to be removed and replaced, and so that still is in the project. So this deletes about 380 feet of curb and gutter from the project.
So to remove and replace 300 and something feet of curb and gutter, it's about $8,000 or $7,000
Yes.
to do that job.
It's not to say that if you were to go out and just buy that all by itself, that that's what it would cost you, but I think that it's a reasonable cost. As I say, the civil engineer has reviewed the proposal that was presented by the contractor as well as the architect, and both of them have agreed that this is a reasonable price.
If I just called up and wanted to have 350 feet of curb and gutter down my street, what do you think it'd cost me?
Oh, I bet it'd probably be twice that. But when you do a project that's like you just described, which is all by itself, where you're mobilizing people, that's not really a very fair comparison, in a sense. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of you can't go out and, if I were going to paint this entire building, I'd get a much better price per square foot than if I just wanted to paint that wall over there. And so when you take pieces out of a project, and it's just part of the process. I mean, we don't, so.
Well, and this is a delete from the project.
Pardon me?
I said this is a delete from the
It
project.
is.
It's not an addition.
I also would like to, just as for information, I would like to share with you kind of, I think we've been very fortunate throughout the project in terms of our change orders to date. We actually, if we include the change order for the park amenities, we've added about 3% to to Shiloh's contract. If we don't include the park amenities change order in that, we actually are at a minus just about 1% for the project to date, and we're long into the project. So I think we've been very fortunate that we have a good set of documents and we have a contractor that's worked with us and has treated us fairly, and I think that this change order is in keeping with that.
This is just my opinion, thinking about this library getting completed and looking at it and people enjoying it. I personally would prefer all of the street curb and gutter work being brand new, in my opinion, rather than trying to salvage a few $1,000s at this point. But that's just my opinion. If anybody else has a different opinion, then they're free to voice it.
Well, I might mention how the history briefly about how this came about, in the sense that when the contractor started to lay out the work, what they looked at was what the detail required us to do was to provide a curb and gutter situation for a street that has an integral curb. And in some cases, that street is not in great shape. And so the ability to put a curb and gutter onto a street that needs repair could actually be more counterproductive than actually might not help. And so they raised the question. We had the civil engineer come back out and take a look at it. When the project was first designed, we had anticipated that we were going to be putting a new sidewalk right up against that curb around the property, and so it made sense that if we're putting in a new sidewalk right next to the curb, that we would replace the curb. During the design process, that sidewalk got moved back basically to the right-of-way line and about 20 feet from the street, and so the logic of replacing the curb was no longer the same thing. Now, we can go out there and look at the curb that would be replaced, and I've got a sketch here that the area in blue is actually the curb that would not be replaced. So the other areas on that drawing there, we will get new curb and gutter at the approaches. All the new driveways will replace where the entrances exist now that are replaced. We'll get a new curb and gutter at those sections, but it would be at those particular locations shown on there.
So the blue lines here are just the ones that you would not be wanting to cut out and replace?
No, those are the ones that are being deleted by this proposal.
Right. So they would remain.
That's right.
As they are.
Does our city engineer have any input to this discussion?
Mr. Olverding did consult with the engineer. The curb and gutter, except for two small places, is functional. It's cracked, it's ugly, it's old. I'm pretty ugly and old myself, but it is functional. The aesthetic that the mayor brought up is a legitimate part of this discussion, whether you want new curb and gutter, you got a shiny new library, do you want shiny new curb and gutter? That's a legitimate discussion. The other discussion is cost, and you have that in front of you, what you would save on cost. But technically speaking, the curb is quite functional. It would be aesthetic, and cost would be the only things to discuss at this point.
I have one question. If, let's say, we decided that we want the curbing to be replaced as well, does the street need repair? Are there parts of the street that need?
There are probably some panels that, when they saw cut out and removed, you would probably leave small broken pieces, smaller than we would like to have. It may trigger a replacement of some panels of street. That's not necessarily a bad thing. If the street's already in bad shape, maybe it's a good thing to replace those panels anyway, but it could be additional costs that would have to be absorbed, not as part of the library, but as just normal street repair.
Yeah, I think there's maybe two spots that are almost the width of the street that are pretty, where that storm line goes across there. That's
Todd, I'm as penny pincher as anybody can be, but I don't see the cost effectiveness to not go ahead and do it with this shiny new library. I'm not quite convinced yet that that's the way to go, Mr. Mayor. I need a little more explanation as to why it would be in the best interest of the city and the library to delete this from the job. That's what I'm asking. I don't see.
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, it's always difficult for contracts to do deduct change orders. I mean, you probably all have had some experience with that yourself, and you oftentimes don't get back dollar for dollar. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And so we try not to get into that situation too often. But on the other hand, you know, at $7,000 that you're saving, if you go ahead with the work, then you might have to spend another $7,000 repairing the panels in the street, and those dollars wouldn't come out of the library project because they're street repair costs that probably could be spent someplace else.
But we may not have to spend the $7,000 for panels. That's not
Well,
necessarily saying the panels are going to need to be replaced.
Well, no, there are a number of panels out there that probably would need to be replaced.
Mr. Mayor, let me get this straight. We have a shiny new library, but the road in front of the library is too bad to replace the curbing for the library. Unbelievable.
So I personally don't have a big issue with the drywall soffit, the carpet, even the dirt work needed at the south end of the pond. But the street curb and gutter work, like I said earlier, I personally would prefer that that be all replaced and we have brand new what the people have voted for and are looking forward to. But this looks like it's all lumped into one item 5.
Well, there's a change order document that requires your signature. We can get that. If you were to approve this without that item, we can have that change order reissued with the correct dollar amount on it, which basically would add $7,000 roughly to the cost of the change order. And we can get that to you tomorrow for signature. So if you wanted to approve it without that item being approved, that's your prerogative.
But it wouldn't necessarily add $7,000 to our bill. I mean, they've already quoted what they're willing to do the work for, obviously.
No,
right?
no, but the change order of $8,974.76 would have to be increased by the $7,000 that you're deleting from the change order. That's a credit against the cost.
Okay.
So that would increase the cost of that change order, roughly $7,000.
Well, I would personally like to make a motion to remove the curb and gutter from this list here as far as the change order.
How about a motion to approve the change order with that item regarding curbs deleted?
Could the could the bond money be used to repair the street? Does the bond, was that a part of the bond? Legal description?
The library and environs, which included the park and the playground, so that wouldn't be an appropriate expenditure of those funds.
So I do have a motion and I have a second for the approval of item 5 with the removal of the street curb and gutter work. Please cast your votes. Item 6 is consideration and possible approval of library change order with Terracon for additional testing needed for the playground and parks amenities. Do I have any questions or motion?
I'm not sure I understand the, additional concrete testing. I mean,
Well, I think what it is,
maybe I don't understand.
correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that knows, but where the playground will go is where the old police station used to be. And there was foundation, maybe even a basement in there that they had to cave in, so there's concrete underneath there, and they want to do some testing to make sure when they're doing their dirt work, they're all hunky-dory, I guess. That's the official word too, hunky-dory.
I move approval of the Terracon change order as presented.
Was there nothing in the original bid about it?
I do not know.
The playground was not part of the original bid.
Do we know what this cost may be for the testing?
$4,542.25.
This also includes the additional testing for the new parking lot that we're going to be placing on the east end, which originally was shown as an existing parking lot to remain. And so this is the testing of the concrete and the subgrade underneath the parking.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Caton, could he weigh in on this? Is it necessary, in your opinion?
In order, if they're doing the paving for the parking lot, is it gonna be a PCC paving? Yeah, you
Yes.
definitely need to do some test cylinders for the floors, and you definitely wanna do the proper testing on the compaction on the bay.
It's a lime stabilized base, which would also be
the
tested.
moisture tests and all those would be standard for a paving job.
It also includes concrete. You may recall that underneath the playground, we have a 4-inch concrete slab, and so it also includes the testing for the soil below that concrete pad as well as for the concrete itself. And the city of Bethany has been responsible for all testing associated with the project, and so we're just basically catching up with the change order that released the playground and park amenities work last time we met.
I'm wondering about this. Should this have been brought up whenever we voted to do the playground? Should this have been included in that? Project?
It wouldn't have been part of that contract because this is separate and apart from what the playground contract calls for. They're required to lay the base for the playground, but the testing is not included in their contract. In other words, they would pour the concrete, but you want to make sure that after they pour it, that it's the correct concrete and what they're pouring it on is going to support it.
The other thing that's worth noting here is that this is actually a unit price contract that was identical or similar to what Oklahoma City has hired Terracon to do testing for. And so what actually happens is we only pay for the actual tests that are performed. This dollar amount becomes a not to exceed amount, but in all likelihood we won't spend that amount of money. I mean, that's what we would expect. And they only bill us for what they actually test. And
So very likely could be less than $4,000.
yes.
I had a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 7 is consideration and possible approval of amend to Dewberry Architectural Contract to add services for library outdoor sculpture. Do I have any questions or motion?
I move approval of the Dewberry Architects design scope change for the sculpture.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 8 is called to the public. Do we have anybody here tonight that wishes to address the council? Please come forward to the microphone and state your name and address.
My name is Dale German. I live at 3001 Oak Ridge Drive here in Bethany. And on January the 6th, 2017, in the Oklahoman, this letter to the editor was published under the title Unsung Heroes. Every year after Christmas, I see the army of sanitation workers cleaning up tossed out Christmas trees, wrapping paper, empty boxes, you name it. I want to say thank you to those wonderful people who keep our city clean. They especially work hard from October through December, picking up tons of dead leaves we have at our curb. I've been to other countries where unsanitary trash and garbage litter otherwise beautiful countryside. In America, we have clean streets and beautiful countryside because sanitation workers on big noisy trucks pick up trash and haul it away. You unsung sanitation heroes are appreciated 52 weeks a year, every year. That was written by C. Dale German. That's me. Before I talk about trash, I want to say thank you to the City Council because you come here at night and work after a day's work, and our city is someplace that's beautiful to live. I moved here 10 years ago from California, and I wanted to come back to Bethany, graduate of SNU, but Bethany is home for me. I found people here that have my values and my lifestyle, and actually I put money in another town, and I canceled it the next morning because I wanted to live in Bethany. And here I am. So thank you for making Bethany so beautiful. It's thrilling to see the work that you do. We're going to watch 23rd Street be redeveloped. We're looking forward to what's happening from Oklahoma City through War Acres and Bethany down to Yukon on 39th Expressway. The library, we go by it every day. We watch it. I stop my car on Mueller and watch the construction go up. It's a crown jewel in Bethany, and we thank you for that. But I'm here to talk about the trash pickup, especially the leaves in the fall. I don't have a recommendation. I just want to present what we do to keep the city clean, okay? Thinking a picture is worth 1,000 words. I brought one of the trash bags that we've been using. By the way, I've talked to neighbors, only 4. I'm not a community organizer. I've just talked to the guys that live around me. And these are the bags that we buy at Sam's Club. And I don't know how big they are, probably 50-gallon bags. On our corner between Oak Ridge Drive on 29th Street over to Holloway, we can fill 200 of these in a week during the heavy leaf season. So I brought this to let you see how much we're talking about volume-wise. Personally, I like doing it. It gets me out of my retirement lazy boy chair, and it's like a community organization in that way. We have fellowship out there. We stand in the middle of the street and talk about things. But my concern is that with the new trash cans that are coming and the new trash trucks that we applaud, by the way, it's necessary and we're glad to see it happen. The volume of leaves in Bethany needs to be clearly understood by the people who are going to be telling us how we're going to clean it up. We not only clean up our own yards, but with these winds, we clean up other people's yards, and other people clean up our yards. And I'm thinking of Howell River Park, and I guarantee you the people that live on the east side of that park and on the south side are cleaning up city leaves, okay? I don't know how you're going to do this, but it's going to cost some money. And I've talked to some neighbors, one of the neighbors, I know there's 4 of us, but one of them was saying that we should not be penalized to clean up our leaves by it costing us more money for containers or whatever it's going to be. We don't have kids in school and we pay school taxes. We don't use all of the big cleanups, but we all chip in and pay for that. And so I think that if you could somehow make available to us whatever kind of containers we're going to need, it just be part of what our city bill is, and we're not charged extra for that. I think that would be equitable to us. And so that's all I have to say. It's a ton of leaves. It doesn't stop. A lot of times the leaves get rained on, they're soaking wet, and so they're heavy. And we're out there and we can't really pick them up with a snapper lawnmower because in that tube they get clumped up, and it takes a lot of work to keep it up. And we like to do it. It's our city responsibility. We're property owners. We take pride where we live. And so thank you for hearing me. Whatever you do, just consider the volume that we're talking about. And there's no way to tell when the volume hits. It depends on weather. Sometimes we're out there and we clean up the leaves, and when we put our lawnmowers away and look out the window, it doesn't look like we've done anything. You're probably aware of that. And sometimes Well, I'll stop. Thank you for hearing me. It's a big job. We wait to see what you do.
Thank you, sir. As a child, I lived on Oak Ridge, and my grandparents lived on Holloway. You know what Oak Ridge is like. You got a lot of leaves, don't you?
Yeah.
And we do have, hopefully, people coming up with a report, I would suspect, of what we are going to be planning on doing.
Yes, I've spoken with the Public Works Director, and they have turned in some paperwork on some possible suggestions on policies on how to, and I'm sure that the leaves, as well as all sorts of yard waste, are part of those suggestions.
Thank you.
I'm Emmeline German, the wife of the previous speaker. And I've been thinking about this also. And I'm not quite as eloquent as my husband is, but maybe a little more of a pragmatist. But I've been thinking about the opportunity to have 2 of these new containers. One, I think they're, did you say 94, 95 gallons? And as just a couple, we would probably use one of those large containers once a month and fill it up. But if I was wondering if there might be a way where we could save our chits on those 2 containers and have them all at once during the season where we really need them, and maybe be able to not be charged for extra bins because we're using up the ones we would have had at the first of the year, at the end of the year, if you see what I'm trying to say. So that was one idea that I had. Another thought that I have was that there are people who do like to recycle the leaves and put them into mulch. Maybe there would be a business where I know that I see a lot of the commercial people who come and help and work on yards. They lay out these cloth, I forget what it's called, but a big cloth, and they might have grommets on the corners where they'll just pick up all the leaves in this one giant big bag and carry it away on a truck. I'm just wondering if there may be some businesses who would want to buy our leaves, and or maybe just pick them up for free and sell them as compost, if there might be an organization like that who we could partner with in this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. German, thank you for moving back to Bethany. Welcome
Yeah.
home.
Is there anyone else? Item 9 is the city attorney's report.
I don't have any items that weren't listed on the agenda.
Item 10 is the city manager's report.
All of my items were on the agenda.
Item 11 is the council members' announcements, comments, and proposals, and tonight we'll start down with Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you also, piggyback on what Mr. McCutcheon said. Thank you for being here tonight and bringing ideas. That's what we need, is ideas. So thank you. And I guess lastly, the only other thing I have to say is we're expecting severe weather, so I just ask everybody just to pay attention and don't rely on the sirens outside. Those are intended if you're outside. If you're not carrying a smartphone, you're out jogging on the trail or whatever. Just be weather aware and be prepared to take shelter if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shirey?
I certainly do appreciate some aggressive people moving in the road system. And we do need your ideas on how to keep our city clean. It is the constant directive for this council to maintain a clean city. And I salute you for that. I've had some things happen this week that I really wouldn't like to go into, but as we all say, we're getting older and harder to get up and down stairs. And I would like to see the city progress, if at all possible, with its work on City Hall to make it ADA compliant in some way. I know it's rather expensive, but the city of Bethany has a number of people who need to get into City Hall. They find it very difficult to do it. You know, we're not all a bunch of young guys like my friends here on this side of the council. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Mr. McCutcheon?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Herron?
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Moore? Mr. Todd? Dr. Arlita?
I just want to thank Steve Caton for stepping up to the plate. We appreciate the work you've done in the last couple of weeks, and know it's a big job you're taking on. Thank you.
Mr. Palmer?
I have nothing.
Thank you. Item 12 is new business. Is there any new business anybody wants to bring tonight? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 15th, 2018. With that, I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1 is the consent docket A through C. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2, consideration and possible approval of Fifth Amendment to communication lease agreement with New Singular Wireless AT&T. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 15th, 2018. With that, I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1 is consent docket A through C. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do I have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 15th, 2018. With that, I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1, A through C is consent docket. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 15th, 2018. And with that, we are adjourned.